The Galactic Council was a powerful assembly made up of many alien species, each more advanced and experienced than the last. For centuries, this council had governed the affairs of the galaxy's most important systems, deciding which species could settle where, how resources were shared, and what rules all life forms must follow. But the council had never faced a challenge quite like the humans. The human race had burst onto the cosmic stage with unmatched speed, developing technologies that seemed almost magical to the more established species. Their ships moved faster, their weapons packed surprising power, and their ideas often broke the old ways the council had grown used to. But what made the council uneasy was not only their technology, it was the humans themselves. The council's leaders watched the humans with wary eyes, labeling them reckless, impulsive, and unpredictable. The humans seemed driven by a fierce spirit that made them both inspiring and dangerous. Time and again, humans had defied expectations, taking risks that many thought were too great and surviving when others believed they would fail. Their refusal to fit neatly into the council's carefully crafted order made many council members nervous. Slowly, suspicion grew into fear. The question in the council chambers became, could humans be trusted? Would their wild ways bring destruction to the fragile peace the council had worked so hard to maintain? After long debates filled with heated words and worried glances, the council reached a grim decision. It was decided that humans could no longer be allowed in the galaxy's core territories, the richest, safest, and most prosperous regions where most advanced species thrived. Instead, humans were to be exiled, cast out to the dark edges of the galaxy where few dared to live. This decision was not taken lightly. The council members knew this was a harsh punishment, but they believed it was necessary to protect the greater good. When the news finally reached human leaders, it struck like a thunderclap. Entire planets were to be abandoned, millions forced to leave their homes and everything they had built behind. The once proud and growing human civilization was to become wanderers, refugees in a hostile and unknown region of space. The initial shock was overwhelming. Confusion, anger, and despair swept through human cities and space stations alike. Families wondered how they could survive without the familiar stars above and the friendly neighbors nearby. Many thought this exile would mean the end of humanity as a great power, if not the end of humanity itself. Yet in the darkest moments, something remarkable happened. Humans did not break. Instead, a fire was lit in their hearts. Leaders emerged, who refused to accept defeat or humiliation. These leaders spoke to the people not with words of surrender, but with calls to strength and hope. They promised that exile would not be the end of their story. They said that humans would return, stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. Across the scattered colonies and damaged fleets, humans began to pull together. Old rivalries and divisions were set aside as everyone focused on survival and rebuilding. Engineers and scientists worked around the clock, inventing new ways to thrive in the harsh environments they now faced. Farmers learned how to grow food in barren soil and under strange suns. Soldiers trained not just for defense but to protect the future of their people. Communities that once competed began to cooperate, sharing resources, knowledge, and dreams. The exile, meant to destroy humanity, instead forged a new determination. Rumors spread about secret projects, new ships being built, and technologies so advanced they could change the course of history. The humans on the fringes of the galaxy learned to adapt to their new home, turning barren planets into livable worlds through sheer will and creativity. Every challenge they faced became a lesson, every failure a step forward. The humans developed a new culture, one built on resilience, unity, and hope. The council watched from afar, still convinced that humans would falter, still waiting for their reckless ways to bring disaster. But the humans surprised them again. They did not just survive, they thrived. The exile had intended to silence them, but it only made their voices louder and their resolve sharper. As time passed, whispers began to spread among the council, members themselves. What if they had made a mistake? What if the humans were not the threat they feared but a force of nature that could not be contained? These questions brought unease. The once dismissed humans had become something more, a symbol of defiance and possibility. The Council's decision to exile humanity had not broken the spirit of the humans. It had strengthened it. And somewhere out there, beyond the borders the Council had drawn, humans were preparing to prove that their exile was only the beginning of a much greater story, one that would shake the galaxy to its core. Cut off completely from the bustling trade routes and well-established diplomatic connections that had once been the lifeblood of human civilization, the exiled humans found themselves stranded on the farthest edge of the galaxy, in a star system no one had cared much about before. This region was harsh and unforgiving, filled with barren planets, weak suns, and scarce resources, a place where only the strongest or most desperate species could survive. At first, the environment seemed like a prison, a final sentence meant to break the spirit of humanity. The soil was rocky and infertile, the atmosphere thin and often toxic, and the stars themselves appeared dimmer and colder than those in the vibrant core worlds. But humans, stubborn and determined, did not see this as the end. They saw it as a challenge. With their backs against the wall and nothing left to lose, they set to work with the same relentless energy that had defined them since their beginnings. Engineers, scientists, and farmers banded together to terraform planets, slowly turning rocky deserts into green fields, thin air into breathable atmosphere, and cold wastelands into thriving habitats. Every success was hard-earned, every step forward a victory over nature itself. They built homes and cities that could withstand the harsh weather, designed machines that could recycle water and air, and grew food in carefully controlled environments. The technology that humans developed was no longer just advanced, it was creative, adaptive, and perfectly suited for survival on these fringe worlds. At the same time, humans learned to depend on each other more than ever before. The divisions and rivalries that had once weakened their society faded, as they realized that cooperation was their best chance to thrive. They created new systems of governance where every voice mattered and innovation was encouraged, a stark contrast to the rigid structures that the Galactic Council had once imposed on them. The people worked side by side, sharing knowledge, resources, and hope, building a culture that valued resilience, ingenuity, and trust. This was a society born from exile, but defined by its refusal to be defeated. Meanwhile, back in the glittering halls of the Galactic Council, the member species watched from a distance. They assumed the exile would crush humanity, that, without access to trade and diplomacy, humans would wither and fade into obscurity. Some council members whispered among themselves, mocking the humans as stubborn fools clinging to a hopeless cause. Others believed it was only a matter of time before humanity's spirit would finally break. What none of them expected was how quickly humans would adapt, how their exile would force them to grow stronger and smarter. Human ships, once designed for speed and firepower, evolved into marvels of efficiency and endurance, capable of surviving long voyages across empty space. With minimal supplies, scientists unlocked new ways to harness energy from the weak suns, using it to power entire colonies. Medical teams developed treatments to help bodies adjust to the harsh environments, pushing the limits of biology itself. Each breakthrough was a quiet rebellion against the Council's judgment, a proof that humans could survive and thrive without the comforts of the core worlds. As years passed, the human population grew steadily. The star system, once ignored by the galaxy, became a network of thriving worlds, each unique but connected by a shared spirit of determination. People spoke of their hardships not as curses, but as badges of honor, stories of survival and triumph that inspired the young and reminded the old of the strength within them. New leaders emerged not from old titles or inherited power, but from merit and vision. They guided their people with wisdom born from experience, balancing caution with boldness, always pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Yet despite their progress, humans remained cautious. They knew the Council still watched and that any sign of weakness could invite attack or further punishment. So they kept many of their advancements secret, hidden deep within underground laboratories or disguised as simple survival tools. Suspicion and vigilance became part of daily life, but so did hope and ambition. The humans were no longer the desperate outcasts the Council had imagined. They were a force quietly building strength, learning from every failure, and preparing for a future where exile would no longer hold them back. Stories began to spread, sometimes reaching the ears of other species. Tales of humans who had turned barren planets into green oases, of fleets that could slip through the darkest parts of space undetected, of communities that had grown strong, enough to challenge the very idea of exile itself. The Galactic Council, once confident in their decision, now found themselves uneasy, sensing a storm gathering at the galaxy's edge. They had underestimated the human spirit, the one thing that no technology or punishment could ever take away. The humans had turned their exile into a new beginning, proving that even in the coldest, most hostile places, life could flourish if it was fueled by courage and unity. And somewhere, beyond the borders the Council had drawn, humans prepared, quietly for the day they would reclaim their place among the stars, not as exiles but as equals, perhaps even as leaders in the galaxy's future. The story of survival on the fringe was only the first chapter in a saga that would shake the foundations of the cosmic order and remind all species that underestimating humanity was a dangerous mistake. Many years had passed since humans were forced to the outer edges of the galaxy, a place once forgotten and considered a dead end by most intelligent species. During this time, humanity had worked tirelessly to rebuild itself, learning to live and thrive in harsh conditions and steadily growing stronger. But what truly marked the turning point in their exile came unexpectedly, like a whisper from a distant past that carried the promise of a new future. On one of the more remote planets they had settled, a world once thought barren and lifeless, human explorers stumbled upon something extraordinary: ancient ruins. These ruins were unlike anything they had ever seen. Massive structures made of unknown materials covered in strange symbols and patterns that glowed faintly in the planet's dim light suggested a civilization far older and more advanced than any recorded in galactic history. The discovery sparked excitement, curiosity, and cautious optimism throughout human colonies. Teams of archaeologists, scientists, and engineers were sent to investigate, working together to unlock the secrets hidden within these alien remnants. What they found stunned them all. The ruins contained technology that defied everything they knew. Devices capable of manipulating energy and matter at a fundamental level. Machines that seemed to bend the rules of physics themselves. These were not just tools or weapons. They were gateways to new understanding. Powerful technologies lost to time and forgotten by most civilizations. For humans, this discovery was a revelation. It offered the chance to leap forward, not just step by step but by great leaps, toward becoming a truly advanced species. As they studied and reverse-engineered these ancient devices, human science took off in ways no one had imagined possible. Their starships became faster and more efficient, able to travel vast distances with ease. Weapons grew smarter and more precise, capable of disabling enemies without unnecessary destruction. Medical technology advanced, healing wounds and illnesses that had once been deadly. Even their energy systems improved, drawing power from sources previously unseen and almost limitless in potential. The humans were awakening to a new era, one where their exile was no longer a weakness, but a source of strength. As these changes unfolded, whispers of human resurgence began to spread beyond their hidden worlds, carried by rumors and the occasional intercepted communication. Members of the Galactic Council, who had once dismissed humanity as a fading threat, began to feel a growing unease. Reports from scouts and spies hinted at strange new ships and powerful weapons, far beyond what humans had previously been capable of. Some council members grew worried, fearing that they had underestimated the very species they had tried to push away. Others debated what this resurgence meant. Was humanity becoming a danger once again, or was it simply evolving into a new form that could one day challenge the Council's authority? The growing concern sparked secret meetings and urgent discussions within the council chambers, but no clear answers emerged. Meanwhile, humans continued their work in silence, focusing on mastering the ancient technologies and preparing for whatever future lay ahead. Their society had changed deeply. No longer just survivors, they were explorers and innovators on the verge of reshaping their destiny. Yet, even as they advanced, humans remained cautious. They knew the Council still watched them closely, and any sudden moves might provoke conflict. So much of their progress was kept hidden, shared only among trusted leaders and scientists. This secrecy built tension, a quiet anticipation that something big was coming, though no one outside the inner circles knew exactly what. The ancient ruins had not only given humans the tools to advance, but had also reignited a fierce pride and confidence in their abilities. Stories of the discovery and the new technologies became legends among the people, inspiring a generation to dream bigger and aim higher than ever before. The awakening was more than just scientific. It was a rebirth of hope and determination. Humanity was no longer just the exiled outcasts of the galaxy. They were a rising power, learning to control forces that could change the balance of everything. As the years passed, the signs of their return grew harder to ignore. Fleets of new ships began patrolling their territories, faster and more capable than any the Council had expected. Communication signals carried advanced codes and strategies, hinting at a society united and ready to stand tall. The Council's unease turned into cautious fear, but they had no clear way to respond. Their old methods of control and diplomacy no longer seemed effective against a humanity transformed by lost technologies and boundless ambition. Deep within their hidden worlds, humans prepared quietly but firmly for the next step. They had learned from the past and knew the price of underestimating their own strength. The awakening was a warning, a challenge, and a promise, all at once. The galaxy, vast and filled with ancient powers and secrets, was about to witness the rise of a civilization that would not be easily ignored or subdued. The story of humanity's exile had entered a new chapter, one filled with mystery, power, and the unshakable belief that they were destined for greatness beyond the stars. After years of silent preparation and steady growth on the galaxy's fringe, humanity reached a moment that would forever change the course of history. No longer the exiled outcasts forced to survive in forgotten star systems, humans had rebuilt themselves into a powerful and unified force, armed with technologies that defied understanding and a spirit sharpened by adversity. Confidence pulsed through their ranks as leaders made a bold decision. It was time to return to the heart of the galaxy, not as desperate supplicants begging for mercy or acceptance, but as equals demanding respect. With great care and precision, humans assembled their most advanced fleets and chose emissaries who embodied the values that had carried their species through exile: strength, wisdom, and an unyielding commitment to unity. These emissaries were not only diplomats but symbols of humanity's transformation, representing a society where cooperation, adaptability, and innovation were the keys to survival and growth. The human fleet, sleek and unlike anything the core worlds had ever seen, moved steadily toward the galaxy's center. As they crossed the space lanes that had once been closed to them, curious and alarmed eyes from other species watched. The whispers and rumors that had long circulated about humanity's resurgence suddenly had a face and a voice, and that voice was clear and unwavering. Humans would no longer be ignored, dismissed, or controlled. When the human emissaries arrived at the Galactic Council's Grand Chamber, they brought with them demonstrations of technology that stunned even the most seasoned members of the Council. Their ships were faster and more efficient, equipped with advanced defenses that required no vast energy supplies, yet could repel even the most powerful attacks. Their communication devices allowed for instant, secure exchanges across light years, and their energy sources were clean, nearly limitless, and adaptable to any environment. More than the machines, it was the humans themselves who impressed the Council members. Their calm confidence, their readiness to engage as equals rather than inferiors. The humans spoke openly about their exile, not with bitterness, but with a clear message. Exile had not broken them. It had forged them into something stronger and more capable. They shared their vision of a future where the galaxy could be more than a place of rigid control and suspicion, where different species could thrive together through mutual respect and cooperation. The Council, long accustomed to holding power and dictating terms, found itself in an unexpected position. Many Council members were taken aback, struggling to understand how the humans had achieved so much under such harsh conditions and what this meant for their own influence. Behind closed doors, debates raged. Some feared that rejecting or resisting humanity again could spark a conflict that no one was prepared for. A war fueled by a species whose strength had been underestimated for too long. Others argued that the humans must be contained, controlled, or even eliminated before they became too powerful. Yet a growing number began to see the potential for a new alliance, one that could bring balance and fresh energy to a galaxy weighed down by old grudges and fears. The humans made it clear that they sought not conquest or revenge but recognition and respect. Their return was not a demand for submission, but an invitation to join in building a new order, one where every species, including humanity, could have a voice in shaping the future. This stance surprised many, for it showed a maturity and foresight that contradicted the Council's earlier judgments of humans as reckless and unpredictable. As negotiations began, humans presented ideas for reforms that emphasized transparency, equality, and collaboration, principles that had become the foundation of their own society during exile. They proposed shared research programs, open trade routes, and joint efforts to explore uncharted regions of space, promising benefits that could uplift all members of the galaxy. The council chamber, once filled with suspicion and resistance, slowly shifted as discussions unfolded. Humans demonstrated not only their technological superiority, but also a willingness to listen, learn, and work alongside other species. This combination of strength and diplomacy made it difficult for even the most skeptical members to dismiss them. Outside the chambers, the galaxy buzzed with news of humanity's return. Some species greeted the news with excitement, eager to see what new possibilities might emerge from this unexpected alliance. Others remained wary, unsure if old fears and prejudices could truly be overcome. Yet the humans remained steady, continuing to build relationships and prove their value through actions, not just words. Throughout this time, humans never forgot the lessons of their exile, the dangers of arrogance, the importance of unity, and the power of resilience. These lessons guided their every step, shaping a future where they could no longer be sidelined or underestimated. The return was not just a moment in history, it was a turning point for the entire galaxy, a reminder that no force, no matter how powerful, could silence a determined people. As the Council began to reshape itself in response to humanity's presence, the galaxy stood at the edge of a new era, one filled with uncertainty, hope, and the promise that together, diverse civilizations could reach heights never imagined before. The story of exile was now a tale of comeback, a testament to the unbreakable human spirit and its ability to rise from the ashes stronger than ever, ready to claim its place among the stars. The return of humanity to the heart of the galaxy did not mark the end of their struggle. Rather, it was the beginning of a new chapter filled with challenges that tested their resolve in ways beyond the battlefield. With their fleets and emissaries now firmly established among the stars once denied to them, humans did not seek to impose their will by force or dominate through power alone. Instead, they stepped into the great halls of the Galactic Council with a clear and unwavering demand. The structure that had once ruled the galaxy with secrecy and unequal power must change. They insisted on reforms that would bring fairness and transparency to the Council's governance, insisting that every species, no matter how large or small, powerful or humble, should have an equal voice and respect for their unique cultures and ideas. These demands were not welcomed with open arms. Many council members were resistant, clinging to the old ways that had preserved their influence and privilege for centuries. The idea of sharing power, of dismantling long-held secrets and hidden agendas, threatened the foundations of their authority. Yet the humans remained firm, presenting their vision not as a threat, but as a path toward lasting peace and progress. They argued that the old system, built on fear and suspicion, had created division and conflict, holding back the potential of countless civilizations. Humanity's own journey through exile had taught them the value of unity, born from respect and understanding, a lesson they now shared with the galaxy. The negotiations that followed were long and difficult, filled with moments of tension and uncertainty. Yet, the human delegates approached these talks with patience and a willingness to listen, demonstrating the very principles they championed. Their ability to bridge divides and find common ground slowly won over skeptical council members and representatives from other species who had their own doubts about change. Throughout these discussions, humans showcased the advancements and strengths their exile had forged, not to intimidate but to inspire. They shared how their society, built on collaboration and creativity, had unlocked technologies and ideas that benefited all, proving that diversity and openness could lead to extraordinary progress. This was a message that resonated deeply with many who had grown weary of endless rivalry and stagnation. Over time, the Galactic Council began to shift, reluctantly at first. Then, with growing conviction, the old power structures gave way to new systems designed to ensure fairness and transparency. Decision-making became more inclusive, with greater emphasis on dialogue and shared goals. Rules were put in place to protect the rights and voices of smaller and less powerful species, breaking down centuries of exclusion. As these reforms took root, humans emerged as leaders and innovators within the new order. Their experiences and values became guiding lights in shaping policies and initiatives that promoted peace, cooperation, and scientific exploration across the galaxy. The exile that had once marked humanity as outsiders was transformed into a powerful legend, a story told and retold as an example of overcoming injustice, not with anger or revenge, but with strength, heart, and unwavering determination. This story inspired many other species to look inward and reconsider their own prejudices and fears. Walls that had divided cultures and races for millennia began to crumble, replaced by bridges of trust and shared purpose. The galaxy was entering an era unlike any before, an era where cooperation and respect fueled discoveries and progress far beyond what anyone had imagined. Human scientists worked alongside alien researchers to explore uncharted regions, uncover ancient mysteries, and develop technologies that could improve life for all. Trade flourished on new routes built through mutual agreement, spreading wealth and knowledge across the stars. In this new order, differences were celebrated rather than feared, and diversity became a source of strength. The humans' journey, from reckless exiles to respected leaders, became a beacon of hope and possibility throughout the galaxy. It reminded every species that even in the darkest moments, change and renewal were possible. The galaxy had learned a profound lesson. Power must be balanced with fairness, strength tempered by empathy, and progress driven by unity. And so, as humans took their rightful place at the center of galactic affairs, they did so not with dominance or arrogance, but with a deep sense of responsibility and humility. Their exile was no longer a mark of shame, but a symbol of what could be achieved when courage, resilience, and cooperation were combined. The story of humanity's rise inspired new generations to dream bigger and reach farther, lighting the way for a future where the stars were not a limit, but a beginning. The new order, born from conflict and rebirth, promised an age of exploration and understanding where all species could flourish together, forever changed by the example of the humans who had refused to be broken and, instead, had risen stronger than ever before.